Our today's lesson is solving linear systems by multiplying. Now recall when we hit the lesson on adding and subtracting that we had to eliminate one of the variables. But now in this case we don't have a pair of opposites. I had a similar problem on the other lesson like that. If I were to add this together, I would get negative x plus 2x equals 1. And you would just have one equation, two variables. The goal is to eliminate one of the variables, either the x or the y. So you notice that y repeats itself in both equations. If I just change the sign of one of them, then I can eliminate the y variable. So let's say I multiply both sides by negative 1 on the bottom equation. Alright, so what I have next is, I leave the top equation the same. I have negative 2x plus y equals negative 1. But then the bottom one will change. That'll be negative x. And that'll be minus y. And negative 2. Now I can eliminate the y variable when I add this together. Alright, so look, negative 2x plus negative x is negative 3x. And if I add the y terms, that eliminates to 0. Negative 1 plus negative 2 is negative 3. If I divide both sides by negative 3, that tells me that x is 1. Okay, so once you have that, you just simply substitute that into the top or bottom equation to get what y is. So it'll be easier to evaluate that into x plus y equals 2, because that's the simpler equation. X is 1, I have 1 plus y equals 2. Subtract 1 from both sides, y has to also equal 1. So it intersects at the point 1, 1. But it gets more difficult. I have two systems here. 3x plus 8y equals 7. And 2x minus 2y equals negative 10. Now if you look at this, the x variable, I have a 3x and I have a 2x. And then I have an 8y and a negative 2y. You want to eliminate either the x or the y variable. Doesn't matter which one. Well, let's say I want to eliminate y. I look at the y variable down here. I have a coefficient of negative 2. But I have an 8 up here. You have to say to yourself, what can I multiply to 2 to give me a opposite of 8y? Well, 4 times 2 is 8. So if I multiply the bottom equation by 4, that's going to give me an opposite term for 8y. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. Alright, when you do this, the top equation remains the same. I have 3x plus 8y equals 7. Alright, here I have 8x minus 8y equals negative 40. And now I can eliminate the y term because I have an 8y and a negative 8y. Alright, so 8 plus 3 is 11x. 8y plus negative 8y is 0. And 7 plus negative 40 is negative 33. I divide both sides by 11. That tells me that x has to equal negative 3. And you can evaluate that to the top or bottom equation. Let's say I use the top equation. I'll say 3 times negative 3 plus 8y equals 7. Well, 3 times negative 3 is negative 9, plus 8y equals 7. And if I were to add 9 to both sides, I get 8y equals 16. You divide 8 to both sides, y has to equal 2. So you have negative 3, 2 is the point of intersection. Okay, let's solve the system negative 2x plus 2y equals 2, with 5x minus 6y equals negative 9. If you look at it carefully, it'll be easier to eliminate the y terms instead of the x, because all I have to do is multiply the top equation by 3, and I can have an opposite of negative 6. So let's try that. If I multiply both sides by 3, this will give me negative 6x plus 6y equals 6. And I'm going to add that to 5x minus 6y equals negative 9. If I add these two together, I'm going to get negative x equals negative 3. If I divide both sides by negative 1, x is going to equal 3. I can substitute x equals 3 to the top or bottom equation. Let's say I use the bottom equation. So what I have now is 5, instead of 5x, I'm going to put 5 times 3 minus 6y equals negative 9. So that's 15 minus 6y equals negative 9. I subtract 15 to both sides. I get negative 6y equals a negative 24. If I divide 6 to both sides, negative 6, y is going to equal 4. So y is 4. It's the point of intersection. All right, let's solve the system 4x plus 3y equals 11, and 2x minus 2y equals negative 12. If you look at the terms, it would be easier to eliminate the x term than the y term, because all I have to do is multiply the bottom by 2, negative 2, and I can get a negative 4x. So I'm going to multiply the bottom by negative 2. So look, the top equation stays the same. I get 4x plus 3y equals 11. And the bottom equation changes, so now I have negative 4x plus 4y equals 24. All right, then I'm going to add this up. The x term is eliminated. That's what I want it to happen. And then 3y plus 4y is 7y. And 11 plus 24 is 35. I can divide both sides by 7. That tells me that y is 5. All right, but we have to solve for the x-coordinate. You can substitute y equals 5 into the top or bottom equation. Let's say I use the top equation. So I have 4x plus 3 times 5 equals 11. So 4x plus 15 equals 11. I'm going to subtract 15 to both sides. So I have 4x equals 4. And divide both sides by 4, x has to equal 1. So the point of intersection is 1, 5. Okay, solve the system 5x plus 9y equals negative 3 and negative 4x minus 7y equals 3. All right, so look at it carefully. This one is a little more difficult because you're going to have to adjust it twice. If you look at 5x, you look at negative 4x, you have to, there's nothing that you can multiply by just one number that's going to make an opposite there. And if you look at 9y and 7y, same thing. So we're going to have to do a double adjustment. So you have to decide which one you're going to eliminate. I could eliminate the x's, but I have to multiply the top equation by 4. And I have to multiply the bottom equation by 5. And when I do that, I get opposites for the x terms. Because I have a 20, then I have a negative 20 for the x terms. But you have to multiply everything in the equation by 4 up top and everything by 5 to the equation below. All right, so when you do that, you're going to get 20x plus 36y equals negative 12 for the top equation. The bottom one, you're going to get negative 20x minus 35y equals 15. And now you can add them up because I have an opposite pair for the x term. So the x eliminates. Negative 20 plus 20 is 0. You got 36y plus negative 35y. That's just 1y, or just y. And you have 15 plus negative 12. That gives you 3. All right, so y is 3. That's my y coordinate. I need my x coordinate. You can substitute that into the top or bottom equation. Let's say I choose the top equation. So I'm going to have 5x plus 9 times 3 equals negative 3. All right, so you're going to have 5x plus 27 equals negative 3. You subtract negative 27 to both sides. I get 5x equals 30. Negative 30. And I divide both sides by 5. X is going to equal negative 6. All right, this concludes our lesson for today.